My goal is not just to talk about gray hair, but ultimately for you to love where you're at in your journey, love how your hair is coming in, whether it's bright or not, knowing that there's more to you than your hair. Gray hair is a hair color. It does not define what beauty is for you. It's who you are on the inside that shines on the outside. Hello, beautiful butterflies, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, I'm Nina. Have you experienced anybody saying any of these things to you? I liked your hair when it was colored. Why do you want to get old by letting your gray grow? Or I don't like your gray hair. Or maybe you've gotten stares from different ones. Or you're on the fence about whether or not you're going to decide to go gray, and you're worried about these very things that we're going to talk about today, which is negative feedback or negative comments that some may give you about your gray hair. First of all, I want you to know that what I'm talking about today is not a guarantee that that will happen on your gray hair journey. There are many who have had very pleasant experiences, lots of support. But as you saw in one of my recent videos, I interviewed Tracy and she didn't have that experience. So this video is for those of you who have experienced people who have said negative comments. So I'm going to give some tips, some reminders, some facts. The first thing I want you to remember when it comes to negative feedback is giving yourself compassion for the things that you can't change. And remember, compassion is basically being able to see if you're hurting, being able to be aware of that. So when someone says something like you look old, or I liked your colored hair better, or you look like a grandma, even if this is something that you chose that you're going to do, I think it's human to admit that that stings a little bit. So I want to remind you to have compassion for yourself if that does bother you or if that does sting. This is the fact that we have to remember. Okay, so I told you guys to remember that there are things you can't change. What can't we change? The fact that we can't control what other people think or say. Say it with me. I cannot control what someone thinks or says about me. You can influence them, but you can't. That's up to them. And so because of that fact, here's a tip. Remember that you can empower yourself by remembering what you can control. You can't control how people will think or what people will say about your choice, about how you're going to wear your hair. But what you can do is remember that your power is in speaking your truth. So on my Instagram page, I put out some feedback on how people have dealt with negative comments on their gray hair journey. And I'm going to share some of those comments with you right now. Please feel free to put your comments. If you have any tips or suggestions, this is a collaborative effort. And remember, whatever comment you put out there, it's something that can help someone who watches this later. So you guys remember I showed you the lovely Tracy on braids that she used to help her through the beginning part of her journey. This video and this topic is inspired by Vanessa. She had asked a question about her son. She said that when she told him she wanted to go gray, he said, "Why do you want to get old, or why do you want to look old?" And she was wondering how to respond to that. So I thought that this would be a great topic. And Tracy mentioned here on my Instagram post that she took the time to speak her truth to her son. She says, "I didn't really have any negative comments once I decided to ditch the dye. However, before I took the plunge, my son was the one that was resistant to my gray hair transformation the most. After I spoke to him and informed him that gray hair is a part of the aging process and gray hair is beautiful, and I couldn't continue using the dye for my health, he got it. Now he loves my hair and the Silver Sisters movement." So Tracy was able to feel empowered. I'm sure she didn't want her son to think that way about her gray hair journey, but by her just speaking about her truth and that this is what was good for her, not only did she inform him, but she was able to even help him, influence him to change his perspective. I also want to give you a disclaimer that just because I mention these things, that doesn't mean who you say this to is going to automatically, switch like Tracy's son did. And it also doesn't mean that it's necessary for a person to change their perspective. You speaking your truth is for you, and how that person takes it is up to them. Now, there can be many different camps of people who will decide, look, if somebody says something out their neck to me, I'm going to respond in kind, or I'm going to make sure that, they know not to talk to me like that. And then there are those who don't know what to say. What I want to invite you to consider is a way to have an empowering response. Sometimes silence is the best answer, depending on who it is. This was her son, someone who she cared about. So she felt that was worth the time to speak to him about her choice and decision. If it's some random person that you really don't care about, maybe somebody who's making a comment on your page, or, you're in the supermarket, you might decide that silence would be the best answer. And that is also empowering. I think an emotional boundary is necessary, that after you recognize that something someone said stung, you remember that their opinion does not mean that that's your truth, similar as Tracy did. I'm going to give you another example here with Grateful Life. She said that she had a brother who she considered her friend, and he suggested that she color her hair. Initially, she sulked, but then she told him outright that it hurt her feelings because she was working hard to accept all of her as she was. He was surprised that it hurt her feelings, and he was apologetic. She said most other people who don't matter, it rolls off her back. Because they don't matter. But this was her brother. Again, another circumstance where this was someone who she did care about, how he looked at her. Now, it didn't mean that because she cared about what her brother thought, that she didn't decide to go gray. It doesn't mean that it's going to change our decision. But I just wanted to show you two examples of why, I wanted to show you two examples that it's normal if you feel some kind of way if someone says something. So toward the bottom here, she said that it was encouraging for her to share that it hurt her and to have him respond positively. So this helps us to see that not everybody who says something that we can perceive as a negative comment or not supportive of our gray hair journey means to hurt us. Sometimes by us speaking to them and saying, you know what, that was a little out of line, or I didn't appreciate that comment, that can help let that person know that, look, okay, I'm not going to talk about her hair that way, or, oh, I didn't realize that it affected you that way. So I just appreciate these two examples of women who were sharing their truth with those that they love about their gray hair journey. That's a definite suggestion of what you can do. And it's not a defense. She just was saying, look, she was working hard to accept all of her. And I love that. And then we have Judith Davis official, who said she was at a Pilates class, and one of the women in the class said to her, a box of hair color doesn't cost that much. She said she didn't even acknowledge her comment, even though she wanted to. And she said, as her mom used to say, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it at all. She said she wanted to tell her that she got her first modeling job after she let her hair go gray. So this is an example of how silence, she decided, I'm not even going to acknowledge, which in itself is letting her know that her comment was not worth a response. Please let me know in the comments, guys, how you would have responded to this, or if you have any tips or suggestions to help others who deal with negative feedback. That would be really helpful. But I like that, it's so interesting to me that people feel so comfortable with it's one thing to ask someone about their choice, but to say a box of hair color doesn't cost much. Tell me what you guys think of this idea that when someone says something like that, it says more about them than it does about the person that they're saying it to. I think that that's true in most circumstances. Like I said, sometimes some people don't realize how they're being unintentionally, but this clearly showed that woman, something about this choice that Judith made for herself triggered this woman, and she felt she was helping her by telling her about the cost of hair color. We also have Blue Eyes and Gray Hair, who says most of the time she would let people know, I'm just trying something new. Other times she would just say, oh, well, and walk away. So she, again, would speak her truth. letting people know that this is something that I'm trying for me. This is what I want to do. Or other times, silence is the best answer. Then we have the lovely silver strands of glitter. These are all women from Instagram, so these are their handles if you'd like to go check out their pages. Whitney says a whopping 1 person supported her decision to go gray, and she said it gave her pause. So much pause, she had to check herself, take a step back, dig deep, real deep, and ask herself why, what, and who she was doing this for. This was her decision, her hair, her grays. She wanted it, and she would own it to the end. This is my journey, not theirs. Tell me what you think of her response. I think that's such an empowering response, and it shows that a lot of the times when we get a response from someone that's negative, it has less to do with what they said, but maybe what it even triggered in us. Maybe especially if you're just starting, you could be a little bit shaky. With your decision, like on the fence about it, especially during this time where everybody's home. You may be letting your gray grow, but you don't know if you're going to keep it that way. So if someone says something, it just kind of like, it ruffles our feathers, or it's hitting a sore spot, right? So I just appreciate the way that she said it's her decision. She realized that she would own it. She would own that that was her choice. That was something that she was going to do. And it's her journey, not theirs. I love this response. Then we have FranPick65 who said, wow, all I could do was ignore the negativity. I knew by following gray pages how beautiful all women I saw were. I changed a lot of minds. Many of my friends and family have followed suit. My biggest supporters were my kids and nieces, young people with dark hair who now can't wait to go gray. So another ironic thing about those who may give you negative feedback about your gray hair journey, they may be the very ones in a short time after who also will make the same decision. So don't necessarily think that if someone is resistant that you can't influence their perspective. Maybe they may not even go gray, but maybe they might look at gray differently. And I also realized that it's realistic to remember that I didn't always think the way that I did about gray hair as I do now. People change their mind after a while. So we don't have to get so stuck on what someone else says. Gigi Silver says, I had a friend that asked me if I needed money for my roots. I was so proud to say it's not about money, it's about embracing the real me. Women stared in my transition and know that I am fully transitioned. I get stopped and asked about what dye color I wear, and I proudly answer it, it's my natural gray hair. So I love Gigi's comment because it's also another empowering statement where you say, I'm embracing the real me. And again, you don't have to go into a long diatribe. Just a sentence like that is letting people know this is something that I'm enjoying. This is something that I'm doing. It's my choice. So I hope these are giving you guys some ideas. Give me a thumbs up. Again, let me know which responses that you resonated with in the comments. And the lovely Sparking Silvers, Anjana, she has a page here on YouTube, by the way, which I'm going to link in the description. She has a great collage of silver sisters in different colors, but I love her response too. She said she didn't get any negative comments. She got some weird stares. So if you get some stares, here's a suggestion. She said, to which my cute smile was very much a reply. I love that because you're pretty much conquering the evil with the good, right? You're not letting someone else and where they're at affect what your truth is and how you feel. And you never know, by you being the way that you are, you might be able to soften someone else with where they're at. But remember too that that's not necessarily your goal. Your goal is just to be who you authentically are and to do what is yours to do. Embrace your gray hair journey. Now again, a lot of these women too, some of them are in the middle stages, because some people might be like, yeah, they could say that because their gray is already transitioned. They're already on the other side. But remember, you're not alone. If you go to Instagram under the Silver Sisters hashtag. There's plenty of women in different stages of their journey, some who've cut off their hair, some who are growing their hair out. So I want you to know that you're not alone. Stephanie says, sometimes you have to consider the source of where or whom the comment is coming from. I like that suggestion too. That's great. I have an affirmation, which is basically a statement that is a fact that you could tell yourself. I can endure others' opinions and still remember what my truth is. So this is something that if you're on the fence, you might be worried about. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? How am I going to react? You cannot control. Let's recap. You cannot control what other people will think or say about you. You can be empowered by what you can control, which is the fact that you can speak your truth. You can remember that this is your journey to have, this is your choice to make, that not everybody has evil intentions or malicious intentions with what they say. And by you speaking your truth to them and telling them why you're doing this, you're accepting all of you, you're embracing you like it, you want to try something new, that in itself can maybe change their or influence their perspective. And I hope the examples of these women, again, you don't know, even in your decision to stop dyeing your hair, who you can inspire to be more comfortable with who they are. There's something about going gray that does make you feel exposed and vulnerable because it's so different than the norm, which is to cover. And it's not to say that women who cover are not confident or don't love themselves, but for those who are done with that but they're afraid not to because of that, know that you can be empowered. You can endure other people's opinions of you, and don't allow what someone else or how someone else feels to stop you from making a decision, right? So in the same way, keep that in mind when it comes to the gray hair journey. So I'd love to hear what was your favorite, guys. Here's another thing I wanted to share with you, a quote from Brene Brown, who I love. She says, courage starts with showing up and letting yourself be seen. What do you guys think of that quote? I think that it's true, because she does a lot of work or research on vulnerability. And she mentioned how vulnerability is not a weakness, it's courage. And remember, I said sometimes with the gray hair journey, you feel exposed when you're going gray. And so it takes courage to show up and let people see all of you that way. Like I said, if you found value from this video, please give it a like, hit the like button, and also share it with someone who you feel will benefit from it. And also check out my website if you'd like more information. Sign up for my newsletter. As I say, my goal is not just to talk about gray hair, but ultimately for you to love where you're at in your journey, love how your hair is coming in, whether it's bright or not, knowing that there's more to you than your hair. Gray hair is a hair color. It does not define what beauty is for you. It's who you are on the inside that shines on the outside. So remember to be kind and compassionate to yourself. I appreciate all of you guys, and I look forward to seeing you on the next live. Bye.